In the heart of the Alaskan wilderness, a father and son set out on the trip of a lifetime. Then, disaster strikes. For 6 months of the year, the rivers are choked with ice. During the summer, it all melts. But this early in the season, some patches have yet to thaw.
The longer we floated, the more ice we actually started to encounter.
It doesn't look like it's going to let up. Do you think we ought to stop this thing?
The current's picking up speed, and Blake struggles to control the raft.
I kept trying to look around the corner, hoping to find, which way we were going to be going. And that's when I realized that actually we didn't have a choice where we were going.
The men are at the mercy of the current.
We're going to have to pull in and stop this.
I'm trying to. I can't slow it down, though.
We're going too fast. Slow it down.
Of course, it wasn't his fault.
Give a hand.
Blake manages to grab Neil's hand, but the current's too strong.
I've never thought of a worse way of dying than drowning, and was certainly thinking that that is how I was going to die. At this time, I had no idea where my father was. He had been pushed up against something and trapped. Next thing I remember seeing was his head above the water.
The powerful current is sweeping Neil away.
It didn't appear like he was making any attempt to get out of the river, and for all I knew, he was injured and couldn't.
Neil's disorientated, but somehow he catches hold of a rock and hauls himself out. Blake knows that his dad has got to get to shore fast before he's paralyzed by cold and shock.
And Blake, in the meantime, is yelling at me, and I can't hear him above the roar of the river. So eventually I managed to get my breath long enough to tell him to shut up.
Will you let me think for a minute?
Blake was telling me that I had to swim over to him, which was the last thing in the world I wanted to do.
Dad! Come back!
Getting back in the river is dangerous. But Blake knows it's his dad's only chance.
Come on, Dad! You can do it! You can do it, Dad! Dad!
It's okay, look. It's gonna be all right. I'll be back home.
But Blake knows their prospects are bleak. They're stranded in a remote wilderness, and nobody expects them back for at least a week. Now their only defense against prowling grizzlies is fire. Their ordeal has left Neil and Blake battered and bruised. Sleeping won't be easy. It's summer and the sun barely dips below the horizon. But during the few hours of darkness, the temperature can still get close to freezing. Ahead of Blake is a 60-mile hike south to the nearest town. In such a vast expanse, he can't afford to get lost. One wrong turn could spell disaster. Now Blake's made a gut-wrenching decision to leave his dad alone and hike out for help. He's heading south for the town of Bethel, 60 miles away. The biggest obstacle in his path is the Tinyaguk River. But first, he has to find it.
Because of the scale of this map, it was a little bit difficult telling exactly where we were. I didn't have any great landmarks.
hiking is taking it out of Blake. But he's still making good progress. Just a few hours after leaving his father, he hits the river. His dad warned him that crossing it would be impossible. It's freezing cold and fast running. He could even be dragged under another ice shelf. But Blake promised to get help, and the only way he can do that is to plunge in.
As soon as I started to cross, the water was flowing fast enough that I realized I was just going to have to jump and swim over to the other side.
Blake has proved his dad wrong. With the river behind him, it should be a straightforward hike to Bettles. Back at camp, 65-year-old Neil is hungry and tired. But he can't rest. Blake has their only lighter, so Neil's got to keep the fire alight. Suddenly, Blake comes face to face with a grizzly bear.
A grizzly can tear your head off with one bite. But their claws can rip holes through you like nobody's business, so you don't want to mess with them.
The bear is some way off, but even the slightest sound could alert it to Blake's presence. There's only so much punishment a 65-year-old body can take. After 3 days without food, Neil is weakening. Blake's decision to hike for help has backfired. Now his actions could cost his father's life. Now Blake is gambling that staying by a major river will increase his chances of being spotted by local pilots. But since nobody knows they're missing, his chances of being rescued are slim.
The same plane, and as they flew over me, they dropped a bag of stuff.
The bag contains supplies and a walkie-talkie.
I turned that radio on. I kind of told him what had happened.
There's only one thought on Blake's mind.
Please hurry! You gotta go find my dad! He's 15 miles upstream. There'll be a fire going, just get fire.
The pilot launches an aerial search for Neil.
And Tango, where are you guys at? Okay, we're gonna head north.
A plane reaches the bright area within 10 minutes.
Yeah,
3 hours later, a rescue helicopter picks up Blake and rushes to the scene.
Neil! Neil! You okay? How did you know I was here? I asked your son.
Blake?
He climbed in the helicopter.
Dad! I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry.
And hell, all I could say was, man, you look like hell.
Well, you don't look that cute yourself.
I was very happy to see him, very, very happy.
Can we get the hell home now? Let's get out of here.
And then we took off. Together again.
The men later learned that their initial camp was not on the flight path of any local aircraft.